Good afternoon to you. It is Friday, February 10th at 4:10 p.m. Many of you are already mailing it in. I'm sure of that. It's Friday afternoon. So I thought I'd do a quick cast to feed that to help you not work with just an hour left or a little under an hour left of the work week. I'm just kidding. That's not why I'm doing it. But I did think maybe you'd nibble a little bit. Who knows? Before I get into what I'm going to talk about, I've got two things to talk about. Let me thank our sponsors. Thanks to Martin Vintage. Head to martinvintage.com right now. Grab a t-shirt virtually or a sweatshirt. Then enter Boiled at checkout. Then check out. You'll get 15% off your purchase. That's pretty good. And next time you're on campus, head over to AJ's. AJ's on Vine. EatAJ's.com. Order ahead. Get some funnel cake sticks. You can get the delicious, scrumptious fried pretzel appetizer. Dip it in some amazingly healthy sauces. Yum, yum, yum. That's a good one. You could also have the mac and cheese bites, which I like. Grab a burger. Burgers, beer, beef. That's AJ's. Head over there. So, happy Friday to you guys. I believe Nathan Anderson says happy Friday to me. Chad Austin says hi. Chad, I appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, I referenced you last night in the post game. You are not the same Chad Austin that played Purdue, I assume. I can't even see the on my screen. I've got a massive screen in front of me, massive monitor. It's 32 inches, but I still can't see your whatever. I did reference you. Yes, sir. So I want to talk about two things. First one, there's a funny thing going there's a funny thing going around on Twitter that's saying, well, there's the blueprint to beat Purdue. You've seen it now. Just press them. It's that simple. Just press them. And there's some good comebacks. There was a good comeback in our comments yesterday. Somebody said, remember, Iowa practices the press a lot. This is what they do. And they do. And when they're down by a lot, they're desperate and they press more. They have guys that are trained to press, and the press is not a common defense used in college basketball right now since it's such an offensive-centric game outside of the Big Ten. But let's look at this. Is that the blueprint? Have they figured out, have they cracked the code of these Purdue Boilermakers? With this blueprint, they lost by 14, and they could have lost by a lot more. I mean, if you want to do that, I keep saying press Purdue. Please press Purdue. If you want to do that, choose your poison. That's going to be bad. Because what it does for your team is it puts your team out of position under the basket. There's where Purdue's strength of their game really is. And again, if you want to do this, Braden Smith is a pretty good ball handler. He's got tremendous vision. There are a couple dishes he dealt out last night that were just incredible. One of them was to Fletcher Lawyer. He drove and he found him. It looked like, how the heck did he see him? But he knew exactly what he was doing. If you watch the post-game comments, which I did after I posted the my thoughts on the game, Caleb first told you a little bit about, he knows Braden Smith has a little bit of a tell when he's about to pass to you. He's pretty good at hiding it, though. So that's the big thing. If you think that was the formula to beat Purdue, a couple key points matter. First one, they didn't beat Purdue. That's probably the biggest one. If I'm going to say the biggest problem that Purdue has, if you want to know the formula for beating Purdue, in my opinion, it's have really long athletic guards. Not just one, but multiple that play in a very good defensive system. So if you want to look at the teams that I'm going to worry about as we keep heading down, we're officially on the home stretch, I would say. These final 6 games, and then into the Big Ten tournament, and then finally into the NCAA tournament. What's the formula that bothers me? Remember I said I don't want to worry. I don't want to say scared because we have real things in real life to be worried about and be fearful of. But the things that bother me are teams that have long athletic guards. When I say long, I mean long-armed, long-legged, guys that can move laterally very quickly and that play well in a system. That has created problems for Purdue this season. That said, I don't think there's anything to worry about at all. From a fan standpoint, let's enjoy this damn thing. And that leads me to what I wanted to talk about, the bigger thing I wanted to talk about today. Is Matt Painter wired? Does he have the stuff to be a national championship type coach. And early in the season, I have told you, on one hand, I'll say, hey, enjoy the ride. And then the next hand, I'm saying, does Matt Painter have the stuff to take Purdue to a national championship? Those two things are contradictory a little bit. But I want to do it because just give you some things to chew on, show you some precedent that's out there. Because for me, I said, okay, first, not a ton of coaches stay at a place for nearly 20 years, 15 to 20 years. There just aren't a lot of them in college basketball. And those that do, a lot of times they're kind of typecast. They just do what they do. They kind of plug away. Everybody's happy with them being there. Maybe they're not championship type guys, but there's another type of coach that's a young hard charger that can rip through a Final Four because he's playing with a different style. And then there's certain guys that get dealt the proper hand, that they are put in a system underneath a coaching regime, that they are heirs apparent to an amazing program. Painter is a little bit of his own man here. He's a bit of a throwback. And Purdue is pretty damn blessed to have two coaches in a row that have given great stability to a program, given great identity and culture to this program. But if you want to look ahead to the tournament, is there reason to believe that Matt Painter could possibly be a Final Four coach or a championship coach? Well, number one, I've been watching a little bit of on YouTube. That's where I watch my podcast. I've been watching things today, and there are a lot of coaches reiterating the idea that I said yesterday, that Painter is one of the best coaches in America. The field of 68, they call him a top 5 coach in America. Not top 4, because Final Four is only 4 teams. So maybe they're saying he's just out. I think a top 3 to top 5 coach is where I put Matt Painter. He's one of the best coaches in America. Anish is funny. When he goes into this analytical stuff, he'll say something that sounds so outlandish. Like he'll say, oh, Purdue's a top 20 basketball program. He used to say that all the time a couple of years ago. Now, obviously, maybe the program is a little bit better than top 20 because multiple seasons where you're voted into number 1 position tends to elevate the brand a bit. Purdue is getting consistent talent. Guys are going to be landed in the NBA. Multiple guys are going to be landed in the NBA in just a couple-year period. Regardless of what happens, eventually Zach Edey will get paid in the NBA. Regardless if he wants to stay there or if he finds his fit, whatever. I don't know that. I'm not an NBA expert. I don't claim to be that. But the whole point is they're elevating. The program was in a good place, and it's elevating even higher. But is Matt Painter a Final Four type guy? So let's look at a couple key points. First off, this is Painter's 18th year at Purdue. He's 52 years old. He's a 4-time Big Ten Coach of the Year and a one-time NABC National Coach of the Year. Pretty good stuff right there. Stop right there. Pretty good stuff. He's won a lot of games. His motion offense, his sets, and the way he's adapted scares the pants off a lot of other coaches. The way he's changed, the way he does things, appointing offensive and defensive coordinator. He did that probably, 5-7 years ago. It's been very effective. He's also shown the ability to adapt to his talent, depending upon who is there. You're going to see this change again next year when Purdue's big men aren't quite as big as Zach Edey. If he decides to go to the pros, you'll see a different look Purdue because you'll have TKR, who will be the primary starter at center, at the 5, whatever you want to call him, or if maybe you call him a power forward and Purdue plays 3 guards and 2 forwards. I don't know. And then off the bench, Wilberg will come in, and Wilberg's going to wreck some people. And it's not because he's going to do it like Edey. He's going to do it in different ways. He's going to stretch out defenses. He's going to shoot. Don't get me wrong. Brandon Brantley, Coach Brantley has not forgotten how to develop big men into being guys that bang on the glass. But offensively, he will stretch teams. And you may see the biggest lineup we've ever seen at Purdue, meaning a 6'10", a 6'10", and a 7'2". That is a massive possibility of a lineup because he is so mobile. And then you'll have First and Kaufman, Wren in there, and then maybe Lawyer and Smith. I see that as a very good possibility of a lineup at times. But anyway, so I just went into a lot of things talking about just what's Purdue going to be next year because Matt Painter changes his system. 18-year guy. Okay, so has an 18-year guy at one school won a national championship, gotten to a Final Four. There are many that have gotten a Final Four, but the guy that Anish and I think Anish and Michael came up with, but Anish came up with right away. He talked about the Jay Wright model. Jay Wright business model is a pretty good one, okay? Jay Wright, though, is not quite there. He's not quite there. It took Jay Wright 15 years at Villanova to get his first national championship. 15 years. They both are, back when Painter wore suits, they were both snazzy dressers. Painter is not much of a snazzy dresser anymore. But Jay Wright always, to me, looked like the mob boss that you really respect and you didn't want to cross. Looked good in the pinstripes. He won 2 national championships before his retirement, which I still don't think will stick. He was 53 years old in 2016 when they won that first national championship. 15 years into his time at Villanova. His first Final Four, though, so this is where it starts to differ. He starts parting ways with Painter right here. His first Final Four was in 2009, okay? So that's a pretty big difference. So he got into the Final Four, year 7? I think that's right. He's 6-time Big East Coach of the Year, 2-time National Coach of the Year. And what you saw Jay Wright, after they won that national title, they turned around, they won another one 2 years later, okay? Pretty good stuff there, though. But he's a coach that was in one place, and he was there a while. Second guy, I think, is a better comparison. Many of you guys have probably already thought about this. Of course, is Scott Drew. Scott Drew, 18 years down at Baylor before winning a national championship. And he won it in 2021. His team won in 2021. Different makeup of a team. That team was hyper athletic, extremely defensive minded, if I remember correctly. Scott Drew has only won the Coach of the Year award 3 times for the Big 12. So he's mincemeat compared to the other 2. I'm kidding. But he was only 50 years old, so a little bit younger, just a shade younger than Matt Painter. But it took him quite a while. So let's. Do you think it's relatively or reasonable to say Painter is in this same mold and can make it happen? Sure. Why couldn't he? I mean, that's my whole point. When I look at this, you always look, I'm a history guy. I like to look back, okay, what happened? Why would you believe this? There's a precedent because it's been done before. Sure, everything can be done for a first time. And Painter might wait till year 25 in his time at Purdue. He's going to be here a long time, thank God, because I love these Purdue teams. But is he gonna wait a long time to get to the Final Four? Who knows? Does it look like this team could make a run at the Final Four? Who knows? Again, let me dig a little deeper into that point. Okay, a lot of people have been skeptical of this Purdue team because of a freshman point guard specifically, but then the other one is the dynamic scorer, the second guy. That's the one that I thought would propel Purdue into the Final Four, specifically Boogie. I thought Carson Edwards is going to get Purdue to the Final Four even before I saw that season. And then as that season unfolded, you're like, okay, this team isn't as good as I thought they'd be. But then guess what? The bright lights came on and Carson Edwards got angry and did amazing things in the tournament. Set incredible numbers, and yet Purdue still couldn't get over the hump, get to that Final Four. And then of course, Jaden Ivey. You've got a dynamic scorer again. You've got a number 1 team at one point during the regular season, and Purdue fizzled out. So round of 16, let me just say this again. I've said this before to you guys if you're listening and watching. The round of 16 is a pretty good place to be. A lot of teams in America wish they could have consistent Sweet 16 teams. I'm not going to say it's anything to say, okay, wow, this is incredible, but it's a pretty solid program. That's a pretty solid program that goes to the round of 16. But can Purdue get over the hump this year? Well, one thing I want you to think about, another parallel with these guys I thought about earlier. In Jay Wright's first national championship, he had a guy named Jalen Brunson as point guard. He was a freshman. He averaged 9.6 points, 2.5 assists. This year, Purdue has a freshman point guard named Braden Smith, averaging 9.3 points, 4.4 assists. Granted, Hart was on the wing for Villanova. It's going to take, if Purdue is going to catch fire and get big in the NCAA tournament, number 1, can you get on the back of a big man and ride him all the way to the Final Four? The guy I think of right away is Hashim Thabit from UConn. Different type of big man than Edey. Number 1, he was not the scorer, but I think he was Player of the Year that year. At least one of the Player of the Year awards went to Thabit. So big men can propel you into the Final Four. And UConn won the national championship, I think, with Thabit as their middle point. But once again, they had a great point guard that year. And I can't remember. I think that's too recent to be Kemba Walker. In fact, I'm almost positive it's too recent to be Kemba Walker. But I know UConn had a good point guard. You need good point guard play. Braden Smith, again, just to throw another one of attaboys to Braden, is he has not played 2 bad games in a row. He doesn't stay down long. This team is a team, and that's what I really love about them. They don't seem to stay down. They lift each other up. We saw it in that presser that Zach Edey, that was awesome when he just stepped in the way and said, hey, I got you. You know, like that type of stuff matters to me. So, but those are my thoughts. I just wanted to put them out there, give you something to chew on, think about. I haven't done just a quick cast for no good reason in a while because the games have been pretty regular, so there hadn't been much of a reason. But I thought you guys might like that. And again, I took a lot of time doing it. Thanks to everybody who's here. Let me see. Ted Berkey says, boiler up, feeling a little better about the team after sleeping on the win. I really think the team was tired in the second quarter. Yeah, that fatigue part. So one thing, I went back and I like to watch other people who talk about Purdue afterwards, specifically Brian Newbert. I love the fact that he's healthy enough to give his post-game raps right now. That's awesome. Thank God. It's awesome. Answer a prayer. But he said some similar things that I said in that you shouldn't be too worried about how Purdue handled that press last night. One thing, his big point was there just weren't enough fouls. And Brian Newbert, you can say that I complain about officials a lot. Newbert doesn't, but he was shocked that Purdue did not get to the bonus with the nature of that game. So that's take it for what it's worth. But Newbert said that, and then if you watch the post game, it didn't sound like Painter was overly worried. He'll tell you if he's worried, and he didn't sound like that. Yeah, Chad Austin says press them, lose by 15. Yeah, exactly. What a blueprint. What a deal. Sure, follow it. Good luck with that. And you're gonna wear out your offense. You just are. They got in an arms race with Purdue. Let's compare it to something that's not exactly the same. But back when Purdue used to score a ton of points, Joe Tiller was the football coach. You almost dared teams to say, okay, you want to play with this pace? Fine. We're going to go. And our defense is going to do a decent job slowing you down. But if you want to get into a horse race, we'll take that. We'll take it all day long. And Purdue showed they can play with another pace, play with just putting points on the board. Getting up near 90 points is a big deal. Sure, Purdue allowed 70 points for the second straight game. They lost to IU. They beat Iowa. They hadn't allowed 70 points all season. Again, I'm not too bothered or worried about this. We'll see what happens here, though. We'll see what happens as the season goes on. I've said it before. These losses don't happen in a vacuum. Let's see what else happens. Let's see how it affects the team. Yeah, Patrick Pence says Purdue has been pressed many times this year. Nothing new. They were pressed quite a few times this year. I think West Virginia pressed them. I want to say Marquette pressed them a bit, and I know Gonzaga and Duke both tried to throw presses at them at different times, and they've been pressed by other teams, and it doesn't bother me. Yeah. Jonathan Michael said, I've seen us get killed by the press before, and this wasn't too bad. No, it wasn't, and it's not something that, yeah. Randall Kindig says, they're youngsters, they don't get tired. They do, though. And if you heard Braden Smith's comments, he was tired at the end. A lot of people were upset that he wasn't in the attack mode on Twitter. But yeah, young guys do get tired. I think that's on Painter right there. If I'm going to give praise, I'll also give criticism. He's got to manage those guys a little bit better. And then David Jenkins got to just come in and step up and do his job. That's it. It's that simple. Got to manage those guys. So let's see. That's about it. I appreciate, I appreciate everybody tuning in the middle of the day. You get back to work. You still got time. You got a half hour. Get that TPS report in. Do appreciate you. I hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you on Sunday evening. Purdue will play at 2:00 in Evanston versus Northwestern. And like I said, I think that's an important one. Northwestern's had a pretty good season. Purdue needs to secure this thing, keep rolling. I think that Maryland game is terrifying, actually. If you want to use terms like scared or worried, Maryland is one that gets me more because I think they have a very, very brutal student section. They've got a precedent for it. But let's be honest, this Purdue team kind of eats that stuff up. IU is a little different, but these guys tend to play pretty darn well on the road. So what are they, 6-1 on the road in the Big Ten this year? That's pretty hardy. So I have a lot of faith in these guys. So that's about it. Hammer down. God bless you. Have a great afternoon. Have a good weekend until Sunday. I'll probably see you Sunday evening in a post-game wrap. We'll see you. Thanks.